What is up guys, it's Locke, YGO, and welcome back to the channel, and today guys, I'm bringing you my Evil Hero updated post-balance deck profile. That's right guys, Evil Heroes are back in this channel, and guys, let me tell you, this deck has a very simple playstyle, which is you try to win in one single turn. You either go big or you go home, and this deck is built just to try and go big every single time. Of course, it will not always be possible, but we try our best to make it happen as much as possible. So guys, without any further ado, let's just get right into the deck profile, and like always, we start with the skill. It's Supreme King Jaden, and it's Dark Unity. This skill has two effects, but only the secondary effect matters, which is you can discard one card and add one Dark Fusion from your deck to your hand. The fact that this skill lets you discard one card has very big implications in this deck, as I'll show you a little bit ahead. It has some very cool hidden synergies that you will guys see in a little bit, and let's just go right into the main deck. And we start with the monsters like always with double copies of Raviel. There are two reasons we play Raviel in this deck. The first is because it's searchable off of the Dark Summoning Beast, which I'll explain in a little bit how it works, and the secondary reason it's because of his high attack, which is 4000. If you guys didn't know, the Evil Hero Dark Gaia gains attack equal to the original attack of all the materials used for its fusion summon. So, when fusion summoning him, we actually want to use the monsters with the biggest attack possible, and in this case, the perfect target just for that is Raviel, since by himself he already has 4000 attack. The reason we play Dark Summoning Beast in this deck is because it can be discarded off of our skill to search the Dark Fusion, and then we can activate its effect in the graveyard, which is the most important one, that allows us to banish this card from the graveyard and search the Raviel from the deck to your hand. That way, basically have a free discard to search Dark Fusion and already have one of the materials to summon your boss monster, the Dark Gaia, with 4000 attack at least. But anyway guys, moving on into the rest of the fiends, we also play double copies of Berserk the Destroyer. It's very useful in this deck for two reasons as well, because the first one, it's a fiend. Although it doesn't have that much attack, it actually works as a substitute for any fusion monster. In this case, we can use him as a substitute for the Evil Hero Malicious Edge in the Evil Hero Malicious Fiend fusion. But guys, I'll get into this guy in a little bit. Anyway guys, this is all for the fiend monsters in the deck, and now we move on into the rest of the monsters, which are the rock type monsters. We play triple copy of Weathering Soldier, and this guy has three main uses in the deck. The first one is that it's a very big beat stick with 1000 attack. The second one is that it can be used as a fusion material for the Dark Gaia as well, and together with Raviel with plus 2000 attack from the Weathering Soldier, we can get Dark Gaia to at least 6k attack if we use those materials. The secondary effect of this card is that when this card is sent to the graveyard by card effect or destroyed by battle, and yes, keep in mind that if you use this guy as a fusion material for Dark Gaia, it will actually activate the effect, that effect being that you can actually search your deck for one card that mentions Fossil Fusion, and in this deck's case, the other card you can search off of the Weathering Soldier's effect is the Shell Knight, which we'll get to in a little bit. But finishing off the Weathering Soldier part, it basically has three uses because very big attack, material for big fusion, and the third one is that if used for material or destroyed by battle, so you can actually defend yourself with this guy as well, you can get the search off of its effect for your Shell Knight into your hand. Shell Knight, on the other hand, has no attack, but it's a pretty good defense, as when you can normal summon this guy, you can switch it to defense by its own effect and inflict 500 points of damage to your opponent. The secondary effect of this guy is, just like Weathering Soldier, when it's sent to the graveyard by card effect and or destroyed by battle, you can actually search a level 8 rock type monster from your deck to your hand, and those being the Valkyrian, the Magna Warrior, and the Gaia Plate, the Earth Giant. Normally, people actually play double Valkyrian because of his higher attack to give to your Gaia Fusion monster. But in this case, I actually prefer to have the choice of these two, because sometimes, just sometimes, you can actually hard summon Gaia by its effect by banishing two rock types from the graveyard to summon him. Also, Dark Gaia can actually sometimes serve as a closer of games, because every time he battles a monster, your opponent's monster attack and defense become halved during the damage calculation only, and this sometimes can catch your opponents off guard and actually win you and finish off the games. So this is all for the rock package of the deck, and now guys, I'm gonna move on into the spells. And in the spells we play double copy of Dark Fusion. The reason why I play 2 instead of 1 is because we actually want to have our skill live as much as possible. That way, if we actually hard draw one of the Dark Fusions, we can still activate the skill to discard whatever we need from our hand and search the secondary copy of Dark Fusion. Also guys, do keep in mind that Dark Fusion actually gives your fusion monster some protection, that being your opponent not being able to target your fusion during the turn it was summoned, so guys, this effect might actually come up sometimes and protect your fusion monster from cards like Sakuretsu Armor or Book of Moon for example that do target your fusion monster. And speaking of fusion monster, we also use a secondary fusion card named Dark Calling at 3 copies, which is basically the follow-up card of Dark Fusion. And by that I mean that Dark Calling can actually fuse materials from your hand and or graveyard. So, if you sometimes use Dark Fusion to summon and have Dark Calling in your hand, you can just activate Dark Calling and banish the materials you just used for Dark Fusion to make a second copy of a new fusion monster into your field, that way having a way bigger threat on your field, since instead of one you'll have two fusion monsters for your opponent to try and stop. But anyway guys, moving on, we also play one copy of Mystical Space Typhoon in the spell and trap removal department, and we also play triple copies of anti-magic arrows. If Mystical Space Typhoon was unlimited, I would probably play 3 copies of him alongside some other spell and trap removal, but in this case, since his card is limited to 1, I actually prefer to play triple copies of anti-magic arrows, because guys, if you guys didn't know, this card is very strong as long as you're allowed to get into the start of the battle phase. Basically, when your opponent's not expecting this card, you instantly win, because this card says that at the start of the battle phase, for the rest of this turn after this card resolves, neither player can activate spell or trap cards or their effects. Also, neither player can activate cards or effects in response to this card's activation, so you basically summon your fusion monsters, which your opponent won't activate probably any spell traps on them, at least until you enter the battle phase, and then at the start of the battle phase, without being able to do anything, you just activate the anti-magic arrows and they can't just respond to this card, so all of their spell traps and most of their defenses will be turned off for this turn, allowing you to OTK safely through all of their cards. So guys, this card is very strong, especially when your opponent is not expecting it at all, securing you games very easily together with your big attack fusion monsters. But anyway, this is all for the spells guys, and now we move on into the last cards of the deck, which are just 3 copies of the Trap Woboku. This deck has a big problem going first. You just want to wait until you can actually attack and try to make your game plan work, which is attacking directly and winning the duel in one single turn. That way, Woboku is a perfect card for that, as you can just set some defenses up or just set this card, shotgun it during draw phase, and that way they won't be able to win the game on their own turn, and then in the third turn you make your own game plan and try to win in that single turn. That way this card is actually very strong in this deck because it gives you the protection you need, or sometimes the stall you need for that extra draw to win the game from there on out. So guys, this is all for the main deck, and now I'm gonna move on into the extra and side deck for you guys. And guys, the extra deck is actually very simple. We play just 3 copies of the evil hero Dark Gaia. This card is insanely good because it just requires 1 Fiend and Rock type monster, which our deck is full of. Also, he will gain the original attack, like I told you before, of the materials used for his fusion summon. That way, in this deck you can actually make him with attack as high as 3500 plus 4000 from draw VL, that totaling at 7500 attack, which is insanely huge. Also, Dark Gaia has a very neat effect that, when it declares the attack, you can actually activate its effect to switch all of their monsters they control to face-up attack position, and if they have any flip effects, they won't activate because of this card's effect protection. So that way you can just secure a game, because unless they have something with 3500 attack or more, they'll just get OTK'd with one single attack, so this card is insanely good. And also, we play in the other fusion spots 3 copies of the evil hero Malicious Fiend. This one doesn't come up as often, as he needs the evil hero Malicious Edge for his fusion summon. Also, he requires 1 level 6 or higher Fiend monster, which our deck is actually full of, including the Ace fusion monsters that can be used with the Dark Calling. This guy is more of a control based strategy, but it can actually win games by itself easily, because this card also has very decently high attack at 3500. So he says that this card must be special summoned with Dark Fusion, and keep in mind that Dark Calling actually counts as Dark Fusion for its summon. During your opponent's battle phase, he also says that all monsters they control are changed to face-up attack position, just like the evil hero Dark Gaia when he declares an attack, and all of their monsters must declare an attack on this guy if they're able to attack. So basically, if your opponent forgets and does enter their battle phase, they have to attack your Malicious Fiend, and probably, most likely, they will lose a duel, because if they forget, there's no way they'll get over a 3500 beat stick that forces all of their monsters to attack. So unless they have some monsters bigger than your Malicious Fiend, and he makes a mistake of entering the battle phase, he will probably get stuck attacking your Malicious Fiend and losing to himself because of his own mistakes. So guys, this is it for the extra deck, it's very simple, and now guys, I'm gonna move on into the side deck. And guys, in the side deck we play double copies of Absorbing Jar. This card is very simple and very easy to work with. It's basically to side in when you go first and your opponent's playing a heavy spell and trap deck. You basically set his card and pass it back to him. When they start their turn, they summon their monsters, set their back row, and try to attack this. They have to set their back row in the main phase 1 because there's no main phase 2 in speed duels, and that's why this card is very good. They attack into this, you flip it, you activate its effect, which destroys all set spell trap cards on the field, and yes guys, this effect also destroys your cards, but do keep in mind that this actually might work in your favor if you want to draw some new cards. Next, after this card destroys all of the face down spell traps on the field, each player draws 1 card for each card that was destroyed in their possession. So guys, even though they'll draw a lot of cards off their back row that just got blown up, that actually will not matter that much, Why? Well, because it's their battle phase, they won't be able to set the new cards, and you're probably gonna win in the next turn anyway, so the cards they drew won't probably matter to stop us in any way, shape or form from winning the game in the follow-up turn, and that's why this card is so great. Also, like I said, this card is a rock type, so it actually might serve as a fusion material for Dark Gaia, even though its attack is not high at all. So do keep that in mind. The other monster we play is the Fossil Dyna Pachycephalo, which serves basically the same purpose as Absorbing Jar, which is it can actually be used off as a fusion material with 1200 attack, and it's actually pretty decent going first as well, because when it's face up on the field, neither player can special summon monsters, so it can actually serve as a little bit of a stun card against more aggressive decks. Also, when this card is face down and it's flipped face up, it destroys all special summon monsters on the field, so this is here to control heavy special summon decks, while the Absorbing Jar are there to control heavy spell and trap decks. So these are basically rock targets that are actually generically good for when we're going first. But anyway guys, moving on into the rest of the side deck, we play one copy of Throw Release just as some Graveyard Disruption, which has been proven very decent in the recent formats. We also play one copy of Lost Twin, even though I feel like this card has fell off a little bit, it's still very decent and I would still play this card at least at one copy in the side. And finally, we have the new kid on the block for when our opponents are playing a lot of impactive spells in their decks, we play the one copy of Magic Drain. This card is insanely good in my opinion, because it negates any spell they activate unless they do discard one other of their spells. So guys, they either lose one of their spells more, or just negate their spell, and this can actually have a lot of impact depending on the deck you're going against. But guys, this is all for this side and extra decks, and now I'm gonna show you the entire deck list laid out for you guys, in case you guys wanna see the deck list in its entirety and wanna copy the decks for yourselves. So guys, here you have the entire main deck for you, in case you guys wanna copy the deck list. And I play 13 monsters, 9 spells and 3 traps, totalizing at 25 cards in the main deck. And guys, here it is the entire extra and side deck for you guys to copy as well. Do keep in mind that, like I say in every of my videos, this side deck might not apply for your own locals, as guys, this side deck is usually built against the decks you're facing off against in your own locals, so while these cards might work for me, they might not work for the decks you're playing against at your own locals, so guys, do keep that in mind please. But anyway guys, this is all for today's deck profile, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, feel free to leave a like down below, maybe even subscribe to the channel if you like to see this type of content and want to see more content like this in the future. And guys, speaking of content, if you want to see some specific type of deck profiles or content in the future, please feel free to comment down below, as I read all of your guys' comments and I'm more than happy to try my best and bring you guys the content that you ask for, as long as it's possible for me to do so of course. But once again guys, thank you for watching, and like always, this is Locke, YGO, and I'll see you guys on the next video.